Guys, in this video, I will be covering everything you need to know regarding the UCAT. So let's start. First of all, UCAT is something that's called an aptitude test. What this means is they test your natural ability to process information and do something with it. But this in no way means that you can walk into the test center without practicing. It is very important that you practice and you feel comfortable before doing your actual test. Next, so the UCAT is used by 30 medical schools and 13 dental schools. So it's the test that's most widely used by the medical schools and the dental schools in the UK. So the registration for the UCAT begins in the start of June, and the booking opens on the end of June, and it costs £70 to book a UCAT test. And you can sit your UCAT from the end of July till mid or end of September, but the earlier you do it, the better it is. Bursary. So if you're eligible for the bursary, you should apply for it, even if you can pay for it. When you get to uni and you apply for a scholarship or bursary, for example, they might look back at your UCAT and they might ask you if you got a bursary from there. So it is very important that if you can, if you're eligible for the bursary for the UCAT, that you apply for it and you use that instead of paying for it. Even if you paid for it, you can still get a refund. So if you can do that, then do that. So in the UCAT, there are 233 questions and you have 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. But I put 120 minutes because it shows you that you're very time pressured. So you need to be able to learn to work quickly under very strict time conditions. So the UCAT has 5 sections, which I will be going through in a bit. And it's sat at the Pearson Centre, which if you have done your theory test, it's the same centre as that. And it can't be resat. So this is very important. If you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel prepared, then move your date forward. That's why you should try to book your test as early as possible so you can reschedule your test for a later date. But the test won't be able to be resat. So if you've done badly, you won't be able to reset it until the next year. So if that's why it is very important that if you don't feel comfortable, that you don't sit the test, even on the day, you can cancel your test. So move it forward, and if you don't feel ready, don't do the test. So these are all the unis that use UCAT in the UK. So as you can see, there's a lot of unis, but all unis won't use the UCAT in the same way, and they won't consider it in the same way. So it is very important that you look at all the unis that you want to apply to and see how they will use the UCAT in different ways. So moving on. So the first section of the UCAT is verbal reasoning. So verbal reasoning is the first section of the UCAT. So it will include 11 passages, 44 questions, and you will be given 22 minutes. So for a single question, you will have 28 seconds. And as you practice, you'll realize that some questions can take more than others. But nevertheless, you're under very strict time condition, and therefore you need to practice to make sure that you're comfortable with it. So the questions are split into 2 types. So there's the true, false, can't tell, and there's the comprehensive. So the comprehensive includes 7 of the 11 questions, and the true, false, can't tell includes 4 of the 11. And most people would find the true, false, can't tell questions much easier than the comprehensive questions. So this would be the comprehensive question. So you would be provided with four options to choose from, and there's the passage. So you would look at the questions, you would read the passage and work out which answer would best suit the option. And then the true, false, can't tell. So you'd be provided with these options, and you would read the passage and work out which option would be best suited. Moving on to the decision making section, so you would have 29 questions and you would have 32 minutes. So that would mean that you would have 66 seconds per question. Now that may seem like a lot, but this is still under some time pressure because the questions can take longer than the verbal reasoning section. So there's an example of a question which is in the decision making section, and this is another example. So it's important to know that not all of the questions are weighted the same way. So the questions, the obesity questions on the left would be 1 mark, but the one on the right would be 2 marks. So even if it takes you more time to do the question on the right, it's fine. Next, quantitative reasoning. So in this section, you would have 36 questions, you would have 25 minutes. So this means you would have 40 seconds per question. So this is an example of a quantitative reasoning section question, and it's basically GCSE maths, and with a bit of maths practice you should be able to do it, but the main problem again is the time. Now moving on to the abstract reasoning section, this will be the most unusual section of all, and many people would not have done something similar before. So you have 55 questions, you have 14 minutes, and this means that you have 14 seconds per question. Now this is a lot of time pressure as well, but if you do a lot of practice, you would just start to get aware of all the different types of shapes and matches you can get. So this is an example of a question that you can get. So in this question you would have to find the rules for set A. So all of the shapes, all of the boxes in set A will have the same rule, and all of the boxes in set B will have the same rule. And then you would look at the shape on the right and see which one it matches with. So this would be the abstract reasoning section of the UCAT. And finally, you would have the situational judgment section. Now that's 69 questions in 27 minutes, which means 23 seconds per question. Now, this is the only section which you can say that you have enough time to do. Now, 23 seconds may seem like you have not a lot of time, but as you practice, you'll realize that this is much more than that's needed. So you'll be able to, at the end, look through your questions and check again to see if they're right or wrong, which you won't be able to do with any other section. So this is an example. So in this case, you would have to choose from the very appropriate to the very inappropriate option. And in the second, you would have to choose very important to the not important at all. So these are the main two types of options that you would be given in the situational judgment. So this is an estimate UCAT score that you would be given if you got the amount of questions right for each section. So for example, if you got 26 questions right for verbal reasoning, you would be given 650, which is a very good score. So this shows you all of the different scores and how many marks you would need for it. But it's important to know that this won't be the same each time. They may change slightly, so just keep that in mind. Lastly, we have the percentiles. So for example, for the 10th percentile, this would be the top 10% of all the students that sat the UCAT, and the first would be the bottom 10% of all the students sat the UCAT. And 5th percentile is basically the average. So for example, in 2020, if someone got 2,510, then they would have around the average score. So just keep that in mind, and good luck.